The story began in the dilapidated children's play center, Willy's Wonderland. A couple was running for their lives as if chased by an invisible monster. The man was quickly killed by an unseen force, splattering blood on the walls. The terrified woman saw a pair of little girl's eyes watching her through a crack in the door. Immediately afterward, the woman was also pounced on and killed by the unknown force. The little girl, hiding nearby, managed to survive. Several years later, a taciturn drifter was driving through the remote town of Hayesville, Nevada. Suddenly, his car's tires were punctured by a spike strip on the road, and the vehicle broke down on the highway. Local mechanic Jed Love arrived with a tow truck and took the man and his car to an abandoned restaurant in town, Willy's Wonderland. This restaurant had once been a bustling family entertainment center, but had been closed for years. The owner, Tex Makadu, offered a deal. If the drifter spent the night cleaning the place, Tex would fix his car in return. The drifter agreed. He was in fact the story's protagonist, known only as the janitor. Notably, the janitor did not utter a single word throughout the story, but he proved to be very capable. As Tex and Jed departed, they locked him inside the building, planning to return in the morning. Meanwhile, a teenager named Liv Hawthorne attempted to burn down Willy's Wonderland by dousing it in gasoline. Liv's foster mother, the town sheriff, Eloise Lund, arrived in time to stop her and handcuff Liv at home to prevent her from getting herself killed. Sheriff Lund was Liv's guardian and knew the ominous history of this restaurant. So, she tried to keep Liv from acting recklessly. After the sheriff left, a group of Liv's friends came to free her, including Chris, Kathy, Bob, Aaron, and Dan. Chris secretly had a crush on Liv. Kathy was Liv's best friend and Bob's girlfriend, and Bob was Kathy's boyfriend. Aaron and Dan were also friends, joining their mission. Aware of the restaurant's dangers, the young friends agreed to help Liv burn it down to eliminate the threat once and for all. At nightfall, the janitor began cleaning the restaurant alone. He donned an employee uniform t-shirt provided by the restaurant and set up his cleaning supplies, preparing for an all-night cleanup. In the main hall stood 8 bizarre mascot animatronics: Willy Weasel, Azzy Ostrich, Gus Gorilla, Knight, Cammy Chameleon, Artie Alligator, Tito Turtle, and Siren Sarah. These animatronic characters, once meant to entertain children, were now dusty and eerily still in the dark corners. However, it wasn't long before they started to show sinister signs of life. While the janitor was wiping down the stage, Aussie Ostrich suddenly moved on its own and lunged at him. Caught off guard by the attack, the janitor remained calm. He grabbed a mop and fought back, beating Azzy to death. After disposing of Aussie's remains, the janitor nonchalantly continued cleaning, even stuffing the broken animatronic corpse into a garbage bag. Afterward, as the janitor continued cleaning the restrooms, he was attacked by a second creature, Gus Gorilla. Gus ambushed him in the men's bathroom, but the janitor reacted swiftly, smashing Gus's head against a urinal and stomping it until the animatronic's face was destroyed. Gus was killed on the spot, and the janitor coolly cleaned up the mess. After defeating Gus, the janitor heard the alarm on his watch go off. It was his scheduled break time. In a bizarre turn, he nonchalantly grabbed a can of Punch energy drink and casually sipped it, then headed over to a pinball machine to play a quick game, as if he was just on a normal work break. After this brief rest, he returned to his duties and continued cleaning. Meanwhile, Liv and her friends had arrived outside the restaurant and were pouring gasoline along the outer walls, preparing to set the place ablaze. Concerned about the innocent janitor inside, Liv decided to climb into the ventilation ducts alone, intending to get the janitor out before they ignited the fire. Liv crawled through the spacious air duct by herself, inching forward in the darkness. Unexpectedly, another animatronic Artie Alligator was lurking in the vents. Artie chased Liv through the duct, snapping its jaws and nearly catching her. At the last moment, Liv fell out of an air vent into a themed room, narrowly escaping Artie. This room was decorated like a fairy castle, and its mascot, Siren Sarah, suddenly appeared. Siren Sarah was designed as Annabelle Fairy, and she lunged at Liv to attack. Liv grappled with Sarah, managing to shove the animatronic away while letting out a terrified scream. Her scream echoed through the empty restaurant, alerting her friends outside and also drawing the janitor's attention inside. The janitor arrived after hearing the noise and found Liv, but by then, Siren Sarah had already fled. Relieved to have found him, Liv frantically warned the janitor that the animatronics were alive and extremely dangerous, urging him to leave with her at once. However, the janitor calmly listened and silently shook his head, refusing to leave and insisting on finishing his cleaning job. With no other choice, Liv stayed by his side, hoping to protect him from harm. Meanwhile, outside, Liv's friends worried as she hadn't reappeared, so they climbed onto the roof of Willy's Wonderland to find a way in. The teenagers made it onto the roof, but it was old and unstable. A scuffle between Chris and Bob caused the roof to give way, and everyone crashed through Thiesling into the restaurant. Thus, all 5 of Liv's friends accidentally fell inside and regrouped with Liv and the janitor. Once they are temporarily safe, Liv explains the dark and bizarre history of this restaurant to the janitor and her friends. It turns out Willy's Wonderland's original proprietor, Jerry Robert Willis, was a notorious serial killer. Over 20 years ago, he and 7 psychotic partners used this children's area as a base to lure and slaughter unsuspecting families and kids. When the police finally uncovered their crimes, Jerry and his cohort performed a satanic ritual inside the restaurant, committing while transferring their souls into the animatronic mascots. Thus, the 8 animatronic characters are actually possessed by the killer spirits and their evil lives on. Each night, they come alive to seek new victims. Liv's own life story is also tied to these events. Her biological parents were among the unfortunate victims killed by Willy and his gang at the restaurant. The little girl who witnessed her parents' murder back then was Liv herself, and a remorseful Sheriff Lund adopted Liv after the tragedy. Just as Liv finishes the story, the animatronic murderers stir once again and suddenly launch a group attack. The Night character, Nighty Night, charges forward, wielding a sword, and impales Aaron straight through the torso, killing him instantly. Siren, Sarah and Tito Turtle chase down Dan, brutally dismembering and devouring him in a gory frenzy. Meanwhile, Artie Alligator sneaks up on Kathy and Bob in another room as the couple had wandered off from the group for some private time. Artie ambushes them and viciously mauls the pair, tearing apart the couple in the middle of their intimate moment. In the blink of an eye, Chris becomes the only one of Liv's friends left alive. The other 4 have been slaughtered. At a critical moment, Nighty Night turns to kill Liv next, raising his sword, but the janitor rushes in to save her just in time. He grabs the Knight's sword and swings it back, decapitating Nighty Night and ending the armored animatronic life. The janitor then immediately turns to face Artie Alligator, and with his bare hands, he rips the alligator animatronic jaws apart, killing Artie for good. In the chaos, the sole remaining friend, Chris, cowers in an arcade area, only to be stalked by yet another mascot, Cammy Chameleon. Cammy appears and slithers up to Chris, feigning friendliness to gain his trust and lure him closer. Fearing for his life, Chris pulls out his phone and calls the police for help, reaching Sheriff Lund and pleading with her to come save them. Upon receiving the distress call, Sheriff Lund immediately drives toward the site with Deputy Evan Olson. On the way, Lund confesses the horrifying secret behind the town. After Willy's Wonderland was shut down, the possessed animatronics did not stop killing, even venturing out of the restaurant to prey on locals. Desperate to protect the town, Sheriff Lund, along with Tex and Jed, struck a dirty deal. They regularly lured travelers passing through into staying at the restaurant, locked them inside as sacrificial victims for the bloodthirsty mascots, satiating the animatronics' hunger for violence to keep the town safe. Liv's biological parents years ago were among those unsuspecting victims tricked into the restaurant and murdered, and a guilt-ridden Lund adopted young Liv afterward. When Lund and Evan arrive at the restaurant, they walk in just as Cammy Chameleon drops its friendly guise and suddenly wraps around Chris, snapping his neck. Poor Chris dies instantly, marking the final death among Liv's group of friends. The janitor and Liv, for their part, had just finished subduing Cammy Chameleon, knocking it down and rendering it temporarily immobile. The 2 are about to leave the building to escape, but they are intercepted by the armed Sheriff Lund. Ignoring her foster daughter's pleas, Lund forces her deputy Evan to take Liv away from the scene, while she herself handcuffs the janitor inside as a sacrifice. Lund restrains the janitor with his hands cuffed behind his back, leaving him alone to face Willy Weasel and the remaining creatures, hoping this will appease their bloodlust. Deputy Evan drives off with Liv, but none of them realize that Tito Turtle has hidden in the police car. While on the road, Tito suddenly emerges from the back seat and attacks, biting open Evan's neck. The deputy died gruesomely on the road, and Liv managed to scramble out of the vehicle and survive. At this point, Onlith janitor and the last of the animatronic monsters remain inside the restaurant. Despite the dire situation, he quickly frees himself from his bonds and prepares for the final showdown. Cammy Chameleon, which had been downed, rises again to ambush the janitor, but he reacts swiftly and twists Cammy's head clean off Siren. Sarah also charges at him, but the janitor, with inhuman endurance, beats her down until she is badly damaged and temporarily incapacitated. The enraged Sheriff Lund now re-enters the restaurant, attempting to sick the last and most fearsome boss, Willy Weasel, on the janitor. She calls out for Willy to come out, hoping this top killer will finish the janitor for her. However, once Willy Weasel appears, he shows no mercy to Lon. The giant weasel lunges at the sheriff and tears her body in half at the waist, brutally killing her on the spot. The final battle now comes down to Willy Weasel versus the janitor. The towering weasel animatronic is ferocious, but the janitor does not back down. He arms himself by filling his burlap cleaning sack with his leftover soda cans and uses it as a weapon to pummel Willy. After an intense fight, the janitor seizes an opening and rips Willy Weasel's head off with his bare hands, at last destroying the chief monster for good. As dawn breaks after the night of carnage, the interior of Willy's Wonderland is a wreck, but has been thoroughly cleaned. Tex and Jed return that morning as promised, and they are astonished to find that all the animatronics are destroyed or missing, and the main hall has been tittied up spotless. The janitor walks out of the building expressionless, and extends his hand for the keys to his now repaired car. Realizing their deal is due, Tex hands over the keys as promised. At this moment, Liv emerges nearby. After the night's ordeal, she has lost her guardian and friends and has nowhere to go. The janitor silently opens the car door, inviting Liv to leave with him. Liv understands, quietly nods, taking the passenger seat as the janitor drives off with her into an uncertain future. Meanwhile, Tex and Jed gaze at the chaotic yet now threat-free restaurant, already excitedly imagining the grand reopening of Willy's Wonderland. However, at that very moment, the last surviving killer mascot, Siren Sarah, suddenly appears. Covered in gasoline and holding a lighter, she heads straight for Tex and Jed's car. With a tremendous boom, Sarah ignites the gasoline and triggers an explosion, blowing Tex, Jed, and herself to Kingdom Come. Finally, the janitor drives his refurbished car out of town with Liv. On the road, the still-living Tito Turtle staggers into their path, and the janitor does not hesitate to floor the accelerator and run Tito over, crushing the animatronic to pieces. With that, all of the evil mascots are completely wiped.